One of the main things you need to know before you start playing piano, other than notes on the staff, is rhythm. Well, your piano teacher Tim has you covered today because that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's get to it. First thing I have to explain first is what is a beat. You've probably heard that term a lot. A beat is a regular interval of sound that drives the rhythm or the piece forward. So think about it like a heartbeat. Bump, 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 bump. And if you condense those into just like one clap, bump, 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 bump. It's a regular interval of sound, and that would be your beat. Now, another word I want to explain is tempo. Tempo is the speed at which the beats occur. So if you started running really fast, bump, 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 right? Then you are increasing what they call the tempo. So just remember those two terms, very important. Rhythm and music in general is broken down into these boxes, you could say, that are basically split up based on the bar lines. So let me show you. You see that basically you have your bar line here. Those separate what's called a measure. So here's your box between each bar line. So you have one here, you have one here till the next bar line, and then one here. So those are the measures. So keep that in mind. And music, a lot of times, especially if you're playing in a band, will refer either to the first measure, second measure, or third measure. So pay attention to that. Now, why do I explain measures first? Well, measures. Think about measures as boxes, and you can fit so many of a certain item in a box, right? And so you can fit maybe like 3 of something or 4 of something. Well, let me keep showing you here. Okay, so each of the measures think about as a box. And in each box, you can fit a certain amount of beats in it. Remember, that's the bump, 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 the regular interval of sound. So over here, we have what's called a time signature. And a time signature tells you 2 things. The first thing is by far the most important for today. And the top number, the first thing it's telling you is how many beats fit in each of these boxes. So I'm going to explain what a quarter note is in a minute, or at least go into more detail about it. But for right now, just keep in mind that a quarter note gets 1 beat, and a quarter note is basically that type of note that is filled in the center, and then it has that stem right there. So you can fit 4 of those in 1 beat, or 1 measure rather, each of these boxes. What if I draw a 5th one? Well, it draws it, but you notice how the measure now is red, meaning you have too many beats in that measure. Now keep in mind that the number of beats doesn't necessarily mean the number of notes, because certain notes are only worth like half a beat. So therefore you could have twice as many. You could have 8 eighth notes. I'll explain in a little bit in each measure. So remember, top number equals how many beats are in each of these boxes. Bottom number down here, that number tells you what note gets 1 beat. So what I would think about it is I would actually draw this bottom number up here and then draw it as a fraction, just putting 1 over that number. And look at that, that's a fourth, or also known as a quarter. So that tells you that the quarter note gets 1 beat. Now we'll do this example later, but if the bottom number was an 8, then the note that would get 1 beat is an 8th note instead. But for right now, especially as a beginner, a lot of your pieces are going to be in quarter notes equaling 1 beat. Okay, there are a bunch of different time signatures. Like I said, they can end in 4 or end in 8. However, the top number can change as well. So you can have 2-4, which would have 2 beats in each measure, so half as many as 4-4, obviously. 3-4, you can only have 3 in each measure. So if I turn it to 3-4, this measure is probably going to turn red. And there you go, turn pink rather. And that tells you there's too many beats in that measure. So what we got to do, what do you think, is cut out 1 of those beats. So now we have 3 beats in each measure. Okay, now I'm going to explain note durations, which is how long you're going to be holding each note. Specifically, when I talk about how long, is how many beats. Let me show you. So I mentioned a quarter note gets 1 beat. And obviously you could have 3 of those in a measure of 3-4 if you needed to. And let's talk about some of the other ones. How about the one that's worth 2 beats? Well, that's a half note. So whereas the quarter note was a filled-in head with a stem on it, the half note is an open head. See how it's not filled in the middle, with also the same kind of stem on it. And this one is worth 2 beats. So therefore, how many beats do we have remaining? Well, hopefully you know simple math. You're going to add in a quarter note to equal 3. So you have beats 1, 2. I always like to draw like a little line of how long that's going to be holding for, and then beat 3 here. So I'm going to be playing this as 1, 2, 3. Whenever you're counting beats, you want to be counting them as consistently as possible. So like the heartbeat, right? Bump, 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 bump. Assuming you're sitting down and not running around or changing the tempo of it. So you want to maintain a consistent tempo throughout. You don't want to go, just say I'm counting out a measure 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the way you don't want to do it. It's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So as even as possible. Okay, we've done 1 beats. We've done 2 beats. Let's do 3 beats. So here we go. And that is the dotted half note. Kind of weird, huh? So if I take away the dot, you have a half note, which is worth 2. And then the dot adds another beat to it. So this one will actually take up the whole measure. 1, 2, 3. And I would just play 1 note and just count for 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, counting as evenly as possible. Let me explain real quick what the dot actually does. It doesn't always just add 1 beat to whatever it's next to. It actually adds half of the note's value back to itself. So let me explain here. So you had, without the dot, you had 2 beats, right? But with the dot, you're adding half of the note's value back to itself. So what is half of 2? 1, right? And that's why we get 3. You have to be careful with something like a dotted quarter note, because a quarter note originally is 1, and then you're really taking half of 1, and then that would be 1.5. So you got to be careful that it doesn't always add, in fact, often doesn't always add 1. It adds just half of the note's value back to itself. Okay, we've done 1 beats, 2 beats, 3 beats. How about 4? Well, we're going to do the whole note, which is just simply a circle. It's a little bit thicker than the others, still open in the middle, but no stem at all. So this would obviously get, you obviously need to be in 4/4 to do this one. You can't do it in 3/4 because it takes up too much space. But this takes up 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I play it, I just got to be making sure I'm counting really, really evenly, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Okay, I alluded to earlier in the lesson that there's a type of beat, or type of note, sorry, that gets less than 1 beat, and that is called the 8th note. So let me draw out a few of those for you. So you've probably seen these before. Okay, this is an 8th note, and often when you have 2 8th notes together, they are beamed across. And if you don't know, the beams are really to tell you what equals 1 beat, like when they're combined together. I didn't know that for the longest time. But anyway, that is an 8th note. When an 8th note appears by itself, it just looks like this instead over here. Okay, so how do you count these 8th notes? Well, you always want to begin on beat 1. And so what happens is we need to have a placeholder for what the other half of the beat is going to be, right? Because normally we were, before, say we had all quarter notes in 4/4, that was just counted as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need something twice as fast while still maintaining the speed of 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to add something in between each beat, and we call that and. It looks like a plus sign. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be twice as fast. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But I'm still hitting each beat the number the same speed as they were before. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Just like that. Okay, and you can have 8th notes mixed in with other types of notes. So those 1 and 2, 3, 4. What I would do though is I would still be counting the and between each measure, just holding, the quarter notes for both 2 and then 3 and. So you're still holding them for the full beat instead. 4 and. Now the reason behind this is this helps you maintain a consistent tempo throughout the whole thing, since students a lot of times when they're moving between eighth notes and quarter notes and back and forth, they tend to either speed them up or slow them down. So let me show you exactly how this is going to help you out. So I'm going to count out this measure here, and I'm going to count it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Still counting the number and, or number and the and that just helps me maintain that consistent tempo. Otherwise, I could count it as 1 and 2, 3, 4. Like, see how they were uneven? A lot of new students tend to do that a lot. So just make sure that you're continuing. We call that subdivision, breaking down the notes into smaller parts. Okay, 16th notes, which you can tell because they have 2 flags on them instead of just 1 with the 8th note. So they look almost the same. There's a little bit more going on. So now what we've done is, remember with the 8th notes, we split the quarter note into 2 parts, 1 and. Now we got to split the the one beat into 4 different parts. So let me show you how that's done. So we still have our 1 and just like before, so the number of the beat that you're on, and then and right there, right? And that makes sense, since if I condense these 2 into 1, that would be here, and then these 2 into and, that would be right there. However, we need new placeholders to fill out this one and this one. So let me show you what that is. We say 1 E and and not A. I mean, I guess you could say A, but 1 E and just like that. So, but when you have other notes mixed in between, you still want to be counting the remaining beats in the same way you're basically playing the 16th notes. Remember, that's called subdivision. So you have 2 E and 3 E and then 4 E and just like that. And that again helps you maintain that consistent tempo, because I would count it as 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and see how stable and consistent those beats were doing that. All right, time to explain the dotted quarter note. Kind of a tricky one, but since we know about subdivision already, should be a little bit easier. So here we have the dotted quarter note. Remember what I said earlier in the lesson about what the dot does. What does it do? Well, it does this, right? So you have the beat, the number of beats the note normally gets without the dot on it. So that would be 1. Plus half of what the original value is. So if you have 1, half of 1 is a half. So therefore, the dotted quarter note gets 1.5. So how in the world do you count this? How do you count 1.5 beats? Well, we do that using subdivision, right? So without the dot on it, this would be obviously 1 and. So this, keep in mind that when we are splitting things up into 1 and, you're splitting them up into 2 halves. So therefore, one question I want to ask you is, how many halves in 1.5? So you have 1, or half, right? Plus another half as a whole, or 1. Plus another half. So you have 3 halves in 1.5. So therefore, we need this to take up 1 and, but also the first half of beat 2, since each of these represents a half of a beat now. So 1 and 2. Therefore, you'll often find an 8th note following the dotted quarter note. Not every time. So you need that half a beat there. And then you got 3 and 4. And just keep in mind that you are condensing those into your quarter notes to maintain the consistency in your tempo. So here we go. This is how you play it. You're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just like that. Okay, so say you're a composer and you're writing your own sheet music, or say you're reading a piece of sheet music from a composer, and they have this. Say they want to hit a beat, a note on each of these beats. However, say here, right, you can only have one more beat in this measure to make, 4 and 4, 4. But say you wanted to put a half note, like in between the measure. Say I want to hit this one for 2 beats instead of 1. So is there a way to do that? And the answer is yes, there is. And we do that using the term, or the symbol, either one, called a tie. So we use a tie, meaning that we are tying two beats together, and it's most commonly used, it can be used in the middle of a measure, but it's mostly commonly used between measures, where you would really want like a half note there, but you can't do it. So here is how you count these. All you're going to do is you're just going to make sure that you're holding this one over between beats 4 and 1. So it would look and play something like this. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty simple. I'm not going to bug you down today with all the instances in which the ties will occur, but that's the main one. Just keep in mind that the simple premise behind it is you're tying one beat to another and you're actually holding them throughout the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to briefly introduce you to 6/8 today. This is a little bit more advanced. Like I said, this is really geared towards beginners learning rhythm from the beginning. But I really do want to mention this because you might come across it and you might be confused. Remember in the beginning of the lesson that I said that that bottom number tells you what note gets one beat. So all the time signatures we've talked about so far had 4 at the bottom. 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. But now it has an 8 at the bottom. So remember, just draw the number like as a fraction, put 1 above it. So now the 8th note gets one beat. Remember that the 8th note, let me write it for you, before was this guy, And often they are actually drawn in pairs, and then you beam them across like so. So remember before the 8th note only got half of a beat, right? We were doing that 1 and 2 and kind of thing. Now, an 8th note actually gets one beat. And the top number is 6, so we have 6 notes. Beats in each measure. Careful not to get them confused. So we got beat 1 here. Now is this going to be and? No, you're going to go right on to beat 2 there. So the 8th note gets one beat. And commonly they will actually have them in groups of 3s here. Since they like to do that in 6/8, just group them into 3. So basically you have 2, so beat or 1 here, 2 there. You have 2 groups of 3. You'll see that very common in 6/8. So you have beats 1, 2, 3 here with each of the 8th notes there. So 1, 2, 3. And then obviously here you have 4, 5, and 6. So I'd be counting this measure as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just like that. Okay, there's an implication here. So if we change the 8th note, before it was worth half of a beat, now it's worth a whole beat or one beat, what does that do to the rest of the notes? Because it changes all the notes from then on forward. Well, think about it this way. Think about the conversion, right? We went from it being worth a half, now it's worth 1. So we've doubled the amount of beats. Sorry, even I get them a little confused. Amount of beats that each note is worth. So now a quarter note, before it was worth 1, now gets 2. So a quarter note is now worth the first 2 beats. 1, 2. Half note was worth 2 beats before, so this is going to be worth beats 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it has to cover those 4 beats. Already a dotted half note here in the next measure was worth 3 before. So now it's going to take up all 6 beats. You're just going to hit the piano and you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, there are other time signatures that end in 8, mainly 3/8, 9/8, 12/8. These all have the same basic concept where the 8th note gets one beat and then everything's doubled, from there. Except the top number just changes how many of those beats fit in each of the boxes known as the measures. I happen to have a lesson that is the perfect way you should be counting notes all the time. And you can find that lesson right there. And make sure that you are also subscribed. You have all notifications turned on because you have new lessons coming out all the time and you don't want to miss a beat. It's been your piano teacher, Tim, here. Thanks for coming and have a great day.